Welcome back to the channel. We got a pretty quick and easy one for you today. 2018 Hyundai Sonata. Just had this old feller in here, last Saturday in fact. Did a front driver side wheel bearing, and I told the feller, you know, you probably ought to think about doing both. You know, usually, you know, front wheel bearings tend to go as pairs more often than not. And no, the other side's nice and quiet. You know, let's just do that side. All right, no big deal. Well, here we are a week later. This thing's just a howling. So, picked up the parts this morning from the local scumbag. So, let's dive into it. Got the wheel off here. Get down to our hub here. We gotta take a rotor off. We don't gotta take the caliper off the bracket, but we gotta take the bracket off. But what you're gonna want to do, make it a little bit easier on yourself before you take all this off, is get this axle nut off. We're gonna shove a screwdriver or something up here, keep this from spinning. We'll just zip this off with the impact. So we got our axle nut off here. And the first thing you want to do before you take all your fiddly bits off here is make sure your axle is moving inside of your hub. We're pretty fortunate today. I can move this with my fingers. But if it's not, and you run into this situation, throw your axle nut back on there, smack your axle nut with a hammer. You can replace the nut. Way cheaper than you replace the axle if you fuck up the end of this axle. So that's all freed up. Next thing we're going to want to do is take all our fiddly bits off here. A couple 17mm bolts on the back side, and we're going to hang the caliper off of a hook here. That way we're not hanging it off this brake hose and we're stretching the fucking brake hose all out. So we don't want to be putting fucking brake hoses on this thing too. We got everything apart here. The hub, focus, you fuck, is held on with, what the fuck is this, T55 Torx. And also keep in mind that you are a metal hub going into an aluminum spindle. So there's all kinds of angry corrosion going on there. So if you're in the rust belt like I am, it's going to be in there nice and tight. So I'm going to start working on getting this apart and see you in a few. We got all the hub bolts out here. You can see here, it's all rusted up. You want to make sure you take a wire wheel, clean that up real good. So what we're going to do now is try to get that hub off of that spindle. Basically, we're just going to take a big hammer, see if we can beat it off of there. Get you on up in here nice and close. See all this corrosion here, all this crap. You get all that crap cleaned out of there. Make sure this face is nice and clean. On these, your speed sensor is picked up by your CV axle. Up in there somewhere. I think it's on the, yeah, right there. I'm going to make sure that's all clean of any fuzz. So I'll get this cleaned up. I got all that stuff cleaned up. I just set the bearing in there, hand put in the bolts. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work them down this side. I'm going to suck that bearing in. I got that bearing all sucked up. And don't overthink this. I'm sure there's a torque spec for these somewhere and somebody really cares about them. But bottom line is, German torque spec is fine. Just get them real good and tight. So that's what I'm going to do next. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get this rotor hung back up on here, get this caliper back on, and we got to get this axle nut tightened up. In reality, there's only 2 torque specs that actually mean something in this whole equation here, and this is your lug nuts and your axle nuts. Everything else, good and tight, is good enough. I'm sure people are going to disagree with that, but I've been working on shit a long time. As well as being a mechanic in my professional career. So we're going to get this hung up here. Unmount our caliper. Slide it back over. Get it lined back up here. Come on, go to your fucking home, bud. There we go. Get this upper caliper bracket bolt started. So the most important thing in this whole thing right now is getting this axle nut torqued back on here. And the reason this is important is this sets the preload on your wheel bearing. If this preload is wrong, then your new bearing ain't gonna last very long. You'll be doing this again. That was cool. Let me go get that as it yeets itself across the fucking shop. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna run that down with the impact. That seats it. I'm going to back it off a little bit. Now, we're going to do the same trick we did when we put it together, or took it apart, I should say. We're going to stick a screwdriver up here in the rotor vanes. We're going to get our torque stick. I want to say these were like 217 foot-pounds. We're going to set this. Do. How much you want to bet I break this screwdriver? Ah. 2 clicks. We're nice and torqued. Throw that back in the toolbox here. And it's still okay. It's got a little bit of an angle to it now, but you get it. We finished getting our brake caliper brackets tightened up here. It's the same thing. Don't overthink these. I mean, it's not the fucking space shuttle here, you know what I mean? Get them nice and tight. It'll snug the bottom, run the top in, tighten the top, tighten the bottom. You know, sometimes we grossly overthink some of this shit, and it's just, well, when you grow up with a fucking wrench in your hand, I guess you just get a feel for it after a while. And 2 grunts before you shit yourself is a legitimate torque spec. Although you don't want to torque those ones that tight. There we go. So for all intents and purposes, we're done. Got the wheel bearing changed out. We got our axle nut torqued. All of our things and stuff are torqued. Tightened. Torqued. You get the idea. So we'll get this wheel back on and we'll get this thing sent back out the door.